The New York Knicks are going to be a dangerous team in the playoffs. Recently, the Knicks were able to secure the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference, matching them up against the Cleveland Cavaliers in their first round matchup. And not only were the Knicks able to secure the 5th seed this season, but especially during the second half of the year, they look great doing it. And going into this matchup against the Cavs, I do think the Knicks are an extremely dangerous team and a huge threat to Cleveland. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm JuicySports. I make opinionated NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. The New York Knicks over the past couple seasons have been a very up and down team. During the 2020 season, the Knicks had a phenomenal year. They were playing great during the regular season, even made it to the 4th seed in the East. And even though the Knicks didn't have all that much success in the playoffs, at least it was something to build off of. Because basically the previous 20 or 25 seasons before that, they had nothing but failure. So finally seeing this level of success was of course very promising for them. But unfortunately after that 2020 season, they didn't build off that success whatsoever, as they once again had a failure of the season in 2021. And then moving forward to this season, people didn't have all that much expectations for them, and during the first half of the season, they played decently well, I would say, around a 500 team. But ever since the All-Star break, the Knicks completely turned things around and have been playing at a very high level, an even better level than they were playing at in 2020. And due to the way they've been playing, especially during the second half of the season, I really do think they're a dangerous team to really anybody in the Eastern Conference. But especially in this first round matchup against the Cavs, I do think it's very winnable for the Knicks. And I think this for a couple different reasons, but the first reason that I want to touch upon is the addition of Jalen Brunson. Because when you look at the Knicks roster, it's relatively similar to what it was last season and even the season before. But the one major difference that the Knicks added to their roster has to be Jalen Brunson. Adding Brunson finally added a true traditional point guard to this Knicks roster. A guy who could not only score 30 plus for himself, whether you talk about that 3-point range, that mid-range, or even driving all the way to the basket, but also does a phenomenal job at setting up his teammates for easy looks and running the offense in clutch situations, which in my opinion is one, if not the most important part about the addition of Brunson. A true traditional point guard has been something that the Knicks have been lacking over the past 20 or so seasons. And the fact that the Knicks finally added one, and not only added one, but added a guy who's as good and as talented as Brunson is, and also has a ton of potential to get even better in the future, is obviously extremely important, and a huge reason for why I think they're very dangerous in the playoffs, and especially in this matchup against the Cavs. Now the next reason that I want to touch upon is the overall camaraderie and chemistry of this unit. Now when you talk about the better teams in the NBA, and especially championship contenders, what do they all have in common? Of course, yeah, they have their superstar players, but when you talk about the best of the best, what they also have is a great chemistry and great camaraderie. And when you look at this Knicks roster, although they don't necessarily have those superstar guys, at least at this point, what they do have is great chemistry and camaraderie. And what I mean by this is it seems like everybody gets along pretty well with everybody else in the team, but especially when they're out there, it seems like they have a great chemistry. Everybody knows where their teammates are going to be out there in the court. They can run the pick and roll or pick and pop effectively and easily find their teammates in the corner for a 3 or the top of the key for a 3 or whatever it is. It just seems like everybody is very dialed in with each other. And of course, this is extremely important at all times, but especially once it comes down to the clutch time, it's even that much more important. Because in clutch time situations, everything gets very chaotic and hectic. But if you know where your teammates are going to be out there in the court, it just makes that one aspect much easier in terms of converting in clutch time situations, and it makes you that much more likely to have more success in those situations. So I do think the overall chemistry and camaraderie of this group is a huge positive and a huge reason for why they've been playing so well, especially during the second half of the year, and why I think they're going to be so dangerous for the Cavs. Now the next reason I want to touch upon is Julius Randle. So of course currently Julius is out with an injury, but he's projected to come back for playoff time. And when you look at what Julius has been able to do this season, he's been nothing short of incredible. He's done a phenomenal job at scoring for himself at an efficient rate, but also keeping down those turnovers that really plagued him in the past. And although I have made a bunch of videos in the past talking about how I thought the Knicks should move on from Julius Randle, and maybe still at this point that's still in the back of my mind, at the end of the day, I do need to realize and recognize how well he's been playing this year, and give him the benefit of the doubt that he'll be able to play at least pretty well once it comes down to playoff time. And I do think that extra boost that Julius would provide for the Knicks would certainly be very beneficial for them. I do think a huge reason for why Julius wasn't all that efficient and effective in the past, even though he was putting up pretty good numbers, was due to the lack of a point guard. So I think the addition of Jalen Brunson really unlocked Julius Randle, and we've been seeing the fruits of that this season. So even though Julius has struggled in the past, I don't necessarily think it would be as big of an issue this season due to the addition of Brunson on this roster and the ability that he has to calm everyone down and get easy shots for everybody, including Julius Randle. Now, one thing that I will mention is Julius is going to be coming back from injury during the playoffs. So of course that's going to be a difficult adjustment for anybody, but at the end of the day, I do think Julius is confident and composed enough to make that work for him. So I'm not necessarily the most concerned about that either, to be honest. Now, the last reason that I want to touch upon for why I think the Knicks are a very dangerous matchup for the Cavs has to be their defense. Now, whenever you talk about Tom Thibodeau teams, they're always known for their defense. And when you look at this year's current Knicks team, they're no different, especially in the second half of the year. The Knicks have done a phenomenal job at consistently playing good defense throughout 4 quarters and doing a great job at playing great team defense. They do have a bunch of different great individual defenders, but what makes them such a good defensive team is the way they're able to play as a unit. And I do think a huge reason for why the Knicks have had so much success over the second half of the year this year isn't only due to the players they have offensively, like Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley has really emerged, Quentin Grimes, and others. I think a huge reason for why they've been playing so well and beating teams that probably they shouldn't beat is due to their defense. And of course, once it comes down to playoff time, defense has to be one of, if not the most important things you can do as a unit. So I think just solely due to that reason alone, the Knicks are dangerous for anybody, but especially the Cavs, who they are going to play in the first round. And overall, when you look at all those different reasons that I touched upon in this video and look at all the different players they have in the roster and a lot of different guys getting hot at the right time, I do think the Knicks should be seen as a very dangerous team, because I think at the end of the day, when you talk about two teams that are pretty closely matched, the determining factor for who ends up winning that series is whatever team gets hotter at the right time. So I definitely think due to the fact that the Knicks are getting pretty hot right now is definitely a good sign for them. But overall, I am extremely excited to see what ends up happening in this matchup between the Knicks and Cavs. I do think it's going to be very close, but I guess only time will tell what does end up happening. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think the Knicks are a very dangerous team in the playoffs, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out, guys.